Hello, my name is Joseph Pirayo. I want to welcome you to today's program. In the beginning, Ashur. Uh, as always, this is a live program. If you have any questions, any comments you want to make during the program, if we can answer, we will. If not, we will do a Q&A. You can reach Assyria TV on X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, and assyriatv.org. As always, thank you for watching. Today is a very special program. We have a guest from all the way from Salamanca, Spain, Professor Efrem Yildiz. Welcome again on the follow-up of the previous program that we did. Hello, how are you? How is everything in
كان
Spain?
وشلامة كل دانا خبرك معايا هاو بلشانة ديا
Yeah,
رابا الصيخة. It's a pleasure. Thank you again for giving me the occasion to have this lecture up an interesting topic. Yeah.
yeah, interesting topic. That the information that you share with us, it's always great. Before we talk about the topic of today, it just remind our audience, our people, that the last time you were here, because this is a follow-up of the last program that we did last time. So if you want to give us a summary of what we talked, you shared with us last time, and we continue with it today. Thanks.
It was a pleasure. Just very briefly, okay? Last time we had a program upon our ancient history, how it went, how the Assyrian Empire was built and how it became powerful empire, and then how it ended with the fall of Nineveh. There we have mentioned several topics, how the society was growing, what the policy of the deportation has supposed, and why the Assyrian society has become at least somehow owner of the two languages, Assyrian Imperial written in cuneiform script and the Assyrian Imperial Aramaic that was really built and founded in Ashur and not elsewhere. Then we moved a little bit through different points, how it came, what happened, and we made a jump to the new era where after the fall of Nineveh, what happened? Were they really totally annihilated, as many authors wrongly have transmitted through their books, or the Assyrian society continued living with a different power, but they were cultivating their traditions, their language, their way of life didn't change in many senses, but they were under a new ruler, and that was the Achaemenid ruler. So we arrived to the Greek period where also several changes took place. And from the Greek period, we arrived to the, let's say, to the last stage of what we call Imperial period, where the Assyrian language was spread at least in the whole Middle East and beyond. And then we stopped here. From then, we are supposed to talk today about the first century onward. What happened with the Assyrian society? Why are we so less understood by the Western world? This is going to be today's topic, if you allow me to talk about.
Definitely. Just one thing I just remembered. Did you mention once the empire 612 Nineveh was destroyed, 605, no more Ashur Empire? I believe you mentioned where our people were scattered, because this is where first century comes in, that wherever they were scattered, that's when the message of Christianity were. So can you share with us that after the fall of empire, where most of our people scattered or were living?
In reality, they were living in Ashur itself, in Nineveh, and the whole, let's say, Assyrian homeland. The unique thing was they were now steered by a different political power. So what the Persians did not is to, as some authors less acquainted with the Assyrian history said, that they were vanished. No, the Achaemenids, they were clearly conscious of the necessity of the Assyrian means that were cultivated. Administrative system was exactly the same. The language was exactly the same. The traditions were kept. If you even see the image of Lamassu itself, it was kept as it was because the unique thing they introduced slight changes even in the crown of Lamas, just in order to tell you that the Assyrian society was living from Hanigalbat to Dur-Kurigalzu. This was Mat Ashur, and from Dur-Kurigalzu until Kuwait, that was the territory of Babylon. So the society, the Assyrian society, was living just under a new ruler, but no political power tried to destroy all what the people then thought. With the time, several things were, of course, several cities suffered much more than the others, but the society lived under the same mechanisms as they were living for thousands of years.
Okay, so that brings us to first century with the beginning of Christianity, and this is the part that we will talk today. Go ahead, Professor. Let us know about the transition and everything.
Yeah, just let me, because in order to not lose, I have prepared a structure. I prefer always to be a bit much more concrete. Now we moved from the fall of Nineveh to through the next the following let's say 4 centuries, 4.5 centuries. Many changes took place. As I told you, Persians or Achaemenids, then there were Greeks, and then other powers were rising, Romans, and again Persians, and so on, under Sassanid, especially in this Parthians and Sassanid. This period, now, where were or what were the Assyrians doing? Were they only subjugated to the central power, or were they also living in an imperial system? What we have to understand is, since Assyria invented the imperial system, this has continued even until today. Okay, we could then explain it later on. The imperial system was clearly conscious of a necessity. They need entrances, taxes. If you kill the people, who will pay the taxes of, and in order to also nourish your soldiers, your military power? So what the Assyrian Empire did is it was split in different, let's say, small kingdoms. And we know at least of three clearly Assyrian defined or Assyrian minded kingdoms: uh, Ashur, Adiabene, and Osroene. And these kingdoms, they still continued even during the Roman Empire until the arrival of the Arabs. These kingdoms were clearly living under the Assyrian traditions, under the language, uh, at least cultural traditions were a daily life living way. So what we have to, as you can see in the map, Osraone, Adiabene, and Ashur, who were the heirs of the ancient Assyrian period, they continued still in an imperial system. They were some kind of independent kingdoms who were paying uh, their taxes or tributes to the two main powers, Roman and Persian, and they continued living using their language, using their traditions, using their way of life as Assyrians. This is why our liturgies, we will talk about it later on, are quite different in relation to the Western liturgies. Now, of course, then these three kingdoms were divided into the two main powers. Osroene was under the power of the Romans, and Hadiab and Ashur were under the power of the Persians or Parthians, okay, at the beginning. What happened now was the first, let's say, first stage, first phase of Christian policy. When did the Christianity start in northern Assyria or in Assyria itself or in Mesopotamia itself? Here we have to distinguish two important points. One thing is what we have from our traditions transmitted through for doctrine of Ad-Daimari, for example, okay, which says that almost at in 37 AD, there is a mission sent to the kingdom of Israel, to Edessa, to Urhai, the first connection to the so-called Abgar Kama, no? Which says that he wanted to have from Christ to be healed, but he wasn't unable to go, and he sent a messenger, and he was healed, and then the whole kingdom became Christian, was converted into Christianity. This one thing. We have also, and we know that this first region, Edessa, Urhai or Urfa, is according to, for example, to the Chronicle of Edessa, we know that in 201 there was a big Assyrian Christian community in and within the kingdom of Israel. There was a church that suffered the flood of the water of the river Daisan and so on. So it's clearly mentioned. And imagine the experts when there is an official building, okay? It must have taken at least 1 century in order to have this recognition and officially being able to worship your own God and so on. So all these elements show us that the Christianity was from the very beginning in the heartland of Assyrian homeland. Now, there are several questions to raise. Were the apostles conscious at the beginning to go and convert the Assyrians to Christianity? Of course, at the beginning, not, because the message of salvation was at the beginning sought according to the Jewish tradition only for those who were from the Jewish origin. Okay? We know that in Orhai, Edessa, in Ahmed, in Nisibis, and Sleptispon, and so on, there were in North Assyria, there were Jewish communities settled due to the fact that they were centuries before, in 721 BC, and then in the 6th century BC, there were two deportations to Babylon and to Ashur. And remnants of these communities were still alive there. This is why at the beginning, the apostles also saw the necessity to start from 2 points, Orhai and Slektispon. Sometimes our people do not take in account two elements. When we talk about the apostolic seats, we talk about Rome, about Alexandria, Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, of course, and very few people mention Slectispon, Seleucus-Ctesiphon, which was the capital of the Parthian Empire and later on even of the Persians. So, and there was also a Jewish community, and therefore the the apostle Thomas, which is supposedly as he started from there and he ended up in India. He started at the beginning in Seleucus-Ctesiphon, but according to the historical development of that period, we know that today that Ad-Daimari were the real apostles who converted Assyrian society from north to the south. Okay. Now, once this phenomenon happened, what happened with the Assyrian society? What has the conversion to Christianity supposed to them and what changes have taken place. This is very important to take into account because nobody asks what happened. Was it just a day mission or was it a very long period? At the beginning, as all the rest of the Christian communities around, let's say, the known world, they were until 313 persecuted in the Roman Empire, no?
Yeah.
So, but from 313, the Edict of Milan onward, the changes have taken place. And these changes have affected also to the Christians in Ashur or in Mesopotamia. Then, in a very short period of time, this new religion that was integrated as one of many other religions that were among and within the Roman Empire, it became then the official religion of the empire itself. Okay? And here the pains, but also the joy started having its positive and negative part because what, from the beginning, the church started then putting regulations, ordering the things. Questions were raised and there were no answer. And then the church officially came. Just as example, the Arianism was a big problem in the church at the beginning. So the church officially has condemned Arianism, and then through that first point, the church started introducing changes in the society in an official way, using also the political power. Was this the case also of the Assyrian society? Were we affected by these new changes? Of course, yes, but a bit later. Because if you analyze our history from the first century until the fourth, we have also gone through persecutions. Imagine the worst one was under Shapur II, 373. That was that
Like 40 years.
exactly. So and has killed. You can't imagine how many thousands of Assyrians who were converted to Christianity. But now let's put this aside. What happened when the two powers, Roman and who have officially become Christian empire, and then the Persian one, which was the Zoroastrian one, what happened with our community?
Yeah. They
How
were
were
looking
they
like a threat.
converted?
Yeah. They were looking like a threat to the Persian Empire because of their faith.
Exactly. So depending on how the relation between the two empires was, we were always victims. Since our conversion to Christianity, we have been victims of the political interests. If there was, let's say, peaceful period, we could live in peace. But if there were, let's say, frictions or wars between the two, then we were also victims of the, let's say, the situation that we were considered like um, how would I say, traitors, because we were in between. So the border issue of, from especially the border that is signed by River Euphrates is a very important point, and it has to do
Can we have that?
also
Sorry, doctor. Can we have that map that shows the empires, the border that the professor, so people know what you're talking about? This one. Yeah, this is the border.
exactly. Here you can see the border between the two big empires, and many kingdoms were included in one side or the others. And we were always divided, as now our nation is divided between four main, let's say, republics, nations. Since then, we have been always divided, and nobody asked us whether we agreed or not, but that was done and is being done until now. Now, an important issue is, and which is highly important, is Despite all those changes, the Assyrian community has never changed its essence as a people, as a nation, as with its own customs and language and so on.
Yeah, the
But
identity is amazing that we have kept it.
it's a miracle that we survived, honestly.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. So, what happened once our church leaders were officially recognized, even thanks to the Roman, let's say, political influence, were recognized as a church. We know that in 410, the first synod that was held, it's from Yezdegerd. It's by the way, it starts in a magnificent way. Uh, it starts like Biad ala Hayya, uh, Biad ala Hayya, and so on. Starts with, so with the help of God, we gathered here. No, and officially they were recognized in the Sassanid period. Now, what happened then? Since we have then, as let's say, organized body as a church, what did our rulers, what did our spiritual leaders to the society? What changes have taken place? In reality, well, probably without being conscious of it, because the Semites, the Semitic world, when they change, they are radical. You change all. So what our first missionaries tried to do is to emphasize our Christian identity and somehow put aside our own national traditional identity itself. Which signs are in order to justify this? How can I show you how we shifted from a vision to another one? Example. Since our conversion to Christianity, for example, the question of the names, this is very important.
Yeah.
The names that were linked to a pagan past tense were removed. We were called Sargon, Ashur, Naram, Sin, and so on. And gradually we moved to, like you and me, Joseph, Abram, Yohanan, and so on. Was this done intentionally, or was this done in a way that it was needed? The church tried totally to uh, fight for a new era, which has no territory, which has no, because all what you do is focus on having the kingdom of heaven. So the cultural elements that are fundamental for a people in order to be distinguished between the others or from the others have become a kind of, elements that were going to be removed in order to emphasize the new phase, the new era as Christians. And our leaders were radical in this. Because you couldn't be baptized if you were using, for example, a typical pagan or Assyrian name. If even you were willing to have, and it has endured until probably last century. If you are going to use Ashur or Sargon or Naramsin or whatever, there is, come on, be careful. This is not Christian.
Yeah.
And this has somehow damaged a lot our link to our ancient legacy as we deserve to.
But somehow our identity, even though the names were changed from our ancestors to more biblical names, right?
Yeah.
So somehow we kept our identity. Professor, there is a comment here. Let me see if I can change this. Andrew Betschliemann says, Dr. Yildiz is right, fall of capital Nembe. I can't see the
Yeah.
rest. Can you see the rest of it, Professor? My
Yes, now I can. Last time I couldn't, but now it's thanks to the Quran, I'm able to read it. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes and no. It isn't. Shall I answer this question or shall I reply afterwards?
However you're comfortable. Andrew, thank you
I'm
for the
comfortable with so what happened now, just short in order to reply. The military power was integrated in the new ruler's power. We know that there was Syrian military groups in the Achaemenid military powers afterwards. No doubts of it. And this is why Hadiab, Ashur, Osroene, and so on were kept as kingdoms. And they were supplying the main, let's say, power with several things. One of them was the tributes. Other thing was uh, supplying them with military power as well.
support.
So
Yeah,
it was not just they vanished as many authors who were not well acquainted with what happened at the beginning. No, of course, one thing is that they lost the central power, and other thing was how then the rest of the military power was integrated in the new ruling leaders group. That is, this is why Ashur, Hadiab, Osra'ane were participating even sometimes in the military campaigns of the central power.
yeah, like the Levites later on English
Yeah,
used us for the
until then, this
yeah.
was the tradition that was kept until practically the beginning of the 20th century. So, but let's go back now to the main topic. I don't know how كما زونت لي هذا.
Doctor, however you're comfortable, we can go and we can stop anytime you want
No, it's
because
better that you stop me, otherwise I will not stop. So,
a little bit more because we have another subject to talk about the gathering in Salamanca also. So we want to make people know about that too. So yeah, we can't finish this. If you want to finish this, you have to sit here at least 50 hours just talk about one small subject. So we go, bit by bit and
yeah.
just comfortable where you want to stop. Then next program we follow up from there. No problem.
Indeed, I have structured at least other 12 units in order to talk about what happened since the beginning, since the first, let's say, first century until the arrival of Arabs, and then from the arrival of the Arabs, what happened. And now, but let's continue. So we have coming back to our conversion to Christianity. At the beginning, we were from a theological point of view. Okay, we were somehow dependent on Antiochian seed. This is why Edessa, which is quite close to Antiochian seed, was somehow very highly influenced by their teachings. Just Theodore of Mopsuestia, this is why Nestorius and so on have had a big influence on our way, how we were expressing our faith, how we were understanding the Christendom as a new religion, and so on. But don't forget that we are, as any other apostolic seed, an apostolic origin. St. Thomas at Daimari are our apostles that have been for centuries considered as such, and they have given us and they have provided us with a legacy that of course has introduced many changes. And one of the changes, as I told you, was this: trying to put aside your pagan or your past that was linked to polytheism, and now they were focusing on how to introduce the monotheism in the way that then it was comprehensible to them. Indeed, if you make a deep study, the Assyrians were the one who somehow taught to the Jewish communities the idea of a unique God, the monotheism. But then anyway, let's not forget that we then adopted it very far in a fast way because there was a clear idea of a unique God, and then this God was understood in three persons and so on. That has become then a big problem first for the Western world and then for our own church. Now, our church, when it was founded, how was it called and why? Why it's called Ayat Madinha, the Church of the East.
The Church of the East, I believe, I know you're going to explain it, but for our people, I believe it started in the Persian Empire as a system, as of like having.
No, I don't. Now, I'm focusing on totally a different way of how to understand the church, the term dinha. What does it mean? Dnah, what does it mean?
Okay.
So, when we say lux ex oriente, is a translation of what it says that the light rise in Middle East, in Mesopotamia. Dnah means this, the rays of the light, because the image, the symbology of light, especially in our church fathers, is of highly of a most important point, how to explain the idea of having a god. Okay, so Madinha comes from there. This is why the Madinha is somehow the light that will illuminate the rest of the societies. But of course, it had its inconvenience. There was no typical national or imperial or kingdom identification was that. Everybody was included in. Indeed, is the church the most inclusive church was the Church of the East. And now our church leaders, they don't remember this. We were one, but many people were coming together. Imagine from Ashur itself until China, India, the whole Arab, let's say geographical point and so on.
All of
But
Middle
there
East.
was there was a heat, okay, and this heat had two powers at the beginning. What kind of powers did the patriarch have at that time? Spiritual power and also material power. As we weren't, let's say, centralized in a big group, there were different groups. There was a head who was able to decide was the material and at material and spiritual level. And this, of course, has weakened somehow the Assyrian process of keeping alive the identity as a territory, as a nation, as a people with their own culture, and so on. It doesn't mean that it was done intentionally, but we have to take into account two important points here. The spiritual leader, who is at the same time material leader, would not participate in the way that a king would participate in defending, in developing its own kingdom. Because the spiritual leaders are focusing the whole time on what is our kingdom of heaven. So, and this was probably the, let's say, from historical and socio-cultural point of view, of course, for us an inconvenient. We couldn't have a center where we could centralize all our efforts in order to keep alive our own identity, our own language. Indeed, we have several languages due to this fact. So this is the fruit of what we are suffering now. We know who we are, but we are somehow in in a situation that our vision as nation doesn't fit with the vision of the patriarchs, because and it's normal and it's natural. But at that time there was the unique option. This is why I say it's a miracle that we have survived throughout the history, keeping alive our traditions. Now, uh, why was this possible? I will give you the example of the languages that we use. We have a classical language that has been cultivated in and within the walls of the monasteries and the church buildings, and the language of the people, which we call Surat, no? Surait, and with Gushma Oktobonoyo. These two societies were really living in a parallel way, and our let's say Assyrian fellows were so respectful on one side to what the churches were doing, but at the same time they were keeping alive their traditions, their way of living the daily life. And the language is a sign of it. If you now compare Surat with Gishma, classical one, you would say something here is wrong. What happened? Did they really care to educate, to train their people in the classical one? No, because the main objective was to be cultivated in scriptures, in biblical texts, in spiritual church fathers, and so on. And somehow the community was living in a parallel way, but somehow also far from what was going on. This is why our modern language, Assyrian language, has some difficulties to be compared with the classical one. The modern one has even kept better even its connection to the ancient language. They are archaisms that are not in the classical one. They are expressions that have been used even 8th century BC that are kept in the modern, let's say, what we call Surat and Surait, and which are absent in the classical one. So all this aspect must be explained to our people in order to understand how our history has been developed from the first century until today. With these terms, we have sources now that show how things happened, how they were developed, and what mistakes were committed, but what other strong issues were fostered. And we have now to educate our new Assyrian generation in these aspects, because otherwise, the new generation now has the possibility to get acquainted with what happened, but if they don't have the right sources, then they can be misled. Sorry.
Okay. So, Professor, mentioning that we need to educate our people, any plans regarding how to do that?
Of course. In reality, you mentioned the Nineveh chair,
Right.
the creating a specific academic chair for research, training, and teaching is this: to give our new Assyrian generation the opportunity to know their real history, and not just listening what some people mean that they know the history. The history is much wider, bigger, uh, than what has been transmitted. And there is a huge confusion in relation to the denominations. I will come then back to it in the next lectures. Why we have been called this and that, and why now those denominations that were clearly religious minded now are becoming national due to the fights between the leaders.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
different ethnicity, and it's just confusing more people and separating us from each other by these false. Professor, as we were talking about the Nineveh, tell us about the dates, what is happening, registration, share some information regarding this program that is coming up next month.
thank you for giving me the chance to do so. Yes, as you know, every year we celebrate an international congress of Nineveh Academic Chair, where we invite experts, Assyrian experts especially, to give us a conference or to delight us with several topics that somehow touch all these elements that we have been mentioning now. I think now it's time that the Assyrian, especially new generation, has the right to know what their legacy is, how their language is structured, how their history, the real Assyrian history, has been transmitted. So this is a golden occasion um, to show and to teach our new generation what is the real history and how it has been developed throughout the centuries. First, our language. This is why today's this year's subject or topic is Assyrian language, history, and continuity. I use always. Last year it was identity. This year is continuity because it's very important that the Assyrian community around the world knows that there is a real continuity of the Assyrian society.
Yeah.
But we have also to prove it, to show it in an intelligent way without criticizing this and that. There are historical proofs, sources, textual evidences. Let's use them. Let's somehow transmit them to the new Assyrian generation. And this is what we try to do. So everybody who wants to know about his Assyrian history, language, and continuity is most welcome for this fourth Congress that Nineveh Academia is celebrating, and which will take place on from 6th to the 8th of October of this year at the University of Salamanca. So you all are warmly welcome.
Professor, is there a registration deadline so you will know how many people are coming? How does that work?
Honestly, I haven't put a deadline because I know that it's complicated to organize, but they can come. Sometimes we have registered them even in situ, in the place where we started. So, but I would
Wait,
warmly invite those who want to come in order to have also, we have to look for the places where to do the gatherings, where to eat, where to be hosted, and so on. So this is the way why I'm insisting on registering from now. But if they arrive at the same day, they will be also most and warmly welcomed. So, for
yeah.
instance, 6th, 7th, and 8th of October is Assyrian day occasion to get acquainted with so many interesting topics: history, language, continuity. Experts, at least 22, 23 Assyrian experts are going to participate with specific conferences, topics. This is the way to to push for the Assyrian Renaissance. Nuhama khata toraya.
Well, Professor, a couple of things. We were together last week in Anaheim for the National Convention. I haven't
Yes.
been here in a while, but one thing that you were mentioning about our youth, there is a kind of a, if you want to call it renaissance or what you might call, but our youth are really, really getting more interested in our identity outside of the religious issues that come. They don't care about it. What I've noticed is that there were a lot of people coming to the meetings, to the gatherings. It wasn't just for the parties. Did you get a sense of something when you were at the convention?
I was moved. I had the same impression as you did. This is the unique way of having a hope, Awelochivi, and seeing young Assyrians, not one or two or 100 or 200. There were several hundreds, even if I could say thousands of Assyrians who were gathering there. And I had the pleasure and occasion to interact with some of them. And yes, and they are hungry of learning about our legacy.
Yeah, they
So
love
it's
who
it's
they are. Yeah.
so it's our moral obligation to provide them with the knowledge that they are requiring, with the knowledge they are asking for, This is why having such centers or chairs like Nineveh chair and many other places where we try to do our best to transmit our legacy from a historical, linguistic, and cultural point of view is the best way how we can rebuild Assyria. This is why I was, I don't know, moved really. I was touched seeing so many Assyrians dancing, even our dances as we do. So
Yeah,
this
I
is,
didn't
yeah,
attend the night one, but I saw the videos. It was great. One thing that for me was different, I attended, last one was in Arizona, and when they had the meetings regarding the subjects as far as language, identity, so many different classes that they put for people to attend, they were like maybe 10, 15 people, and everybody was old. Young people, they just came for the parties. This convention that we went, I saw a lot more of the youth. Like they came to the Gishro meeting, they came to the AI
yeah,
meeting, they came to the language. There were like people brought their kids for the. It was so. I was like, when I went to that meeting that we attended with the AI, I didn't expect not many people, maybe older people, but the room was full. It was a pretty good sized
yes,
room. There were a lot of people. So it's interesting that I think there are people like you that are involved and give credibility because the trust has gone. That's why before our youth would not say, okay, I really don't want to be part of something, Marisha, Mar this, Mar that. But when I see people like you with education, with knowledge, not with feelings only. And people, our youth are saying, man, this is great. I think the things that you and people like you are doing, that's has a lot to contribute to our people. And this Nineveh chair that it's the fourth year that you're gathering there, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but let me just say you something. It's not me. There are so many other Assyrians, intellectual Assyrians, who are contributing to this. Okay, let's put our efforts together. Let's
Yeah.
sum our efforts. Let's push together in a collective way. Si'tana. This is the way. In relation to what you have been underlying, last year, but even the year before. If I compare it with how many people attended the Congress of Nineveh and how many were aged and how many were young, I was highly surprised how many young Assyrians are coming, participating in such gatherings. And this is what gives me the energy and the conviction that we are on the right path. Let's encourage our new generation to get acquainted first of all with your own legacy, because you can't love somebody or something if you don't know it. You
Perfect.
can't appreciate it if you don't know it in a deep way. So this is our mission, and I think we are on the right path. But let's please, and this is a message for all our Assyrian fellows, especially for those who have the chance to help, to contribute to this collective awareness, to this collective raising awareness in learning upon our legacy, in language, in history, in culture. Because if they are trained, and the Assyrians are probably the best, but they have to be encouraged, they have to be pushed at the beginning, and then they know what to do. Just as I told it in Ashur, just let us have the chance to do what is needed, and Assyria will be rebuilt again. They started from a small point, do not forget that, Ashur, and then it became a magnificent, uh, powerful, um, there was no limits of the kingdom itself.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
use this energy in order to keep alive our legacy. This is is my message.
That's great. Professor, there was that comment that was made. You said you want to answer it later. Do you want to do that now? Is that okay? Or
Yeah, but I answered a bit, yes, in the way that what happened was the
Brian, do you
military
have that
forces.
comment?
Yeah, yeah, I tried to explain. that of course they were integrated in the new ruling power, and they were not discriminated, they were just included, as many other kingdoms were included with the military powers. So this is the policy of a big emperor, or the Achaemenids were clearly conscious of the necessity of those soldiers who were well trained. Renouncing to them, it would be a less intelligent way of handling. So we know that there were once the leadership of the Assyrian emperors or political power was under control, they were included in the military power of the new rulers. So there's no doubt, and we know about even their groups that there was a clear Assyrians were brave soldiers, and they were well known for the situations which were needed in order to be on the forefront.
Yeah. Well, for our audience, there is the Nineveh Chair, October 6 to 8 in Salamanca. For those of you that don't know where Salamanca is close to Madrid. I think like half an hour, 45-minute train ride. However, you have about a month. Make sure you do your registration, traveling. It's an amazing experience. When I was in Paris last year, I just was able to attend one day, but it was great. People are like your brothers and sisters. It gives, Professor, it uplifting. It's great. Anyway, final note, Professor, you want to share with our audience before we say goodbye, and we will continue with this subject. So, any final thoughts before we go?
Final note is always the same. Don't forget that education is our strength. Let's focus on it. But also don't forget to fight for unity, love, and this is the unique way to make Assyria great again. So, حب حياذا بول برسطان بيشو أمتو لشانا وأطرا.
I was going to say, are you going to finish with our language, Awad Basima? Thank you,
Always. Yeah.
sir. Always, it's identity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, our audience, for seeing the program. We will follow up in the next few weeks with this beautiful subject, educational. And as always, Chaya Ashur, Ahaya Ashur Chaya, Shemid Ashur Mabkila. Thank you, Professor, and we'll see you
أو
next time.
تنرابرا بسيم أختم شانا وشلامة شمريش.
Amin.
شيخاني